Otherwise, there's going to be guilt by association. So far, to my knowledge, I don't believe Donald Trump has made a statement on this. He did pick up an endorsement from known KKK member David Duke, and that Donald Trump repudiated. So that's the first thing. Two, I think that the Republican Party of Minnesota should also make sure that they distance themselves from this, because this is obviously a super PAC, is not representative of the Republican Party, but because Donald Trump is running under the Republican banner, what they need to do is make a formal notice and a formal request of the Minnesota Attorney General to enforce the law. And while their message in Minnesota was sketchy at best, the fact is this is something that independent voters and Democrats are going to pick up and run with if it's not quashed immediately. And I think if the Minnesota Republican Party would send an official request for investigation and hearing on this matter with the Attorney General. The Attorney General, Lori Swanson, has gone on the record many times in the past stating how she is in favor of this law and she wants to enforce this law. And here is a classic example of the time when you utilize the power of this law and the Attorney General's office to make sure that people who are our voters, and I say our voters meaning Minnesota voters, because I know Democrats have gotten the same phone calls asking people to vote for Donald Trump as Republicans have. So this is something that concerns voters of Minnesota from both parties and independent voters. And I really think that if the party would do this and the Attorney General would actually look into this case, then let a white supremacist actually be the shining example of how not to conduct political business in Minnesota. And so with that, we did have a couple of candidates who have shown up in the past. Now, back in December, Ted Cruz was in town, and we never really had an opportunity to give you any of our video clips, even though the entire video is on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/NorthstarOasis. The fact is, we just never had time in our regular show to bring that out because we've had a lot of other stuff to cover. So we're going to give you a little bit of a clip from Ted Cruz back here in December.
How fantastic is it that we have such an array of young, talented, dynamic candidates running for president as Republicans. And what a contrast with the Democrats. So now the Democratic field consists of a wild-eyed socialist with ideas that are dangerous for America and the world, and Bernie Sanders. You know, we are here tonight because this country's in crisis. We're here tonight because we're bankrupting our kids and grandkids. Because our constitutional rights are under assault each and every day. And because America has receded from leadership in the world and it has made the world a much more dangerous place. Well, we need every one of us. And I am here to tell you, I'm here with a word of hope and encouragement and exhortation. I want to tell you all across Minnesota, all across this country, people are waking up. There is a revival. And I'll tell you today, help is on the way. So I want to ask everyone here to look forward. Look forward to January 2017. If I am elected president, let me tell you what I intend to do the first day in office. The first thing I intend to do is rescind every single illegal and unconstitutional executive action taken by this president. But sadly, the corruption corruption has not been limited just to the White House. It has extended across every agency of the federal government. The second thing I intend to do on the first day in office is instruct the United States Department of Justice to open an investigation into Planned Parenthood and these horrible videos. The administration of justice should be blind to party or ideology. The only fidelity at the Department of Justice should be to the laws and the Constitution of the United States. I think where we are right now is very, very much like the late 1970s. I think the parallels between this administration and the Jimmy Carter administration are uncanny. Same failed economic policies, same misery, stagnation, and malaise. The same feckless and naive foreign policies. In fact, the exact same countries, Russia and Iran, openly laughing at and mocking the President of the United States. Now, why is it that that analogy gives me so much hope and optimism? Because we remember what happened. All across this country, millions of men and women rose up and became the Reagan Revolution.
And then on this past Tuesday, Marco Rubio was in town, and North Star Oasis was there. Let's take a look.
Because in 2016, we have a chance to get it right for the first time in 8 years. Now, I know that a lot of you are disappointed about the direction of America right now, and you should be. Because this is the greatest country in the history of the world, and it is not fulfilling its potential. It's being held back. It's being held back, quite frankly, by selfish leaders in both political parties, who for the better part of 2 decades have refused to solve problems. Look at the national debt. The national debt, but people say there's no bipartisanship in Washington. That's a bipartisan debt. Although we've never seen anything like what's been added to it over the last 8 years. You have so both political parties have, I think, failed to solve problems over the last 8 years, but we've never seen anything like the last 8 years. Because in 2008, we elected a president who wanted to change America. And not change it by solving our problems, but like fundamentally transform it in a way that made it more like another country. And so now you have a president that ignores the Constitution, just literally habitually ignores the Constitution and undermines it. You have a president that's gutting our military. You have a president that's undermining our alliances around the world. You have a president that's taken a government and tried to take over healthcare and other aspects of our life. And so the result is this great country is headed in the wrong direction. So much so that we, sadly, we are right now on the verge of being the first generation that leaves the next generation worse off. That has never happened in over 200 years of American history. But in all of this, there's good news. And the good news is it doesn't have to remain this way. The good news is that if we do what needs to be done, we have a chance not just to leave the next generation as well off as we've been, but better off than we are. We have a chance to make America better than America's ever been. But we have to do it in 2016. We have to do it now. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I didn't see you guys here. Thanks, guys, for being here. I didn't know there's really young kids sitting here. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm really glad you guys are here. Young kids, let me guess your ages, between 6 and 12, right? How old are you, 12? 11, I'm pretty good, man. I can spot it. You're 5. How old are you? 4, 5, 6? He won't say. He's holding out. Do you have a job yet? No? Well, I'm glad they're here because it reminds us of what I just said, that what's at stake is what will America look like when these young kids here are my age or younger, when they graduate from college, when they start a family or a business or buy their home. That's what's at stake here. That's what we get to decide. But first we have to win. We can't do any of these things that we're going to talk about today if we don't win the election. And that means we have to nominate someone in the Republican Party that has a chance of winning the election.
Well, even though you couldn't see the kids off camera, actually they're sons of, the kids from a good friend of mine who brought them over to see a presidential candidate. I happen to have friends on all sides of the political spectrum. I've got Hillary Clinton supporters, Bernie Sanders supporters. I've got Gary Johnson supporters, the Libertarian candidate, along with, people who support Donald Trump, people who don't care at all about the process, along with Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, John Kasich, even Jeb Bush supporters. I mean, I've got a lot of friends out there. And so, it's really nice to see that a friend of mine was able to bring his kids and give them the opportunity to see a presidential campaign presidential candidate, right there in action, up front and up close and personal. But that was last Tuesday. We had Marco Rubio in town. So, Minnesota's heating up. We have 93 Democrat delegates at stake and 38 Republican delegates at stake. So Tuesday's going to be a late night for a lot of us who pay attention to this stuff as we pick apart and analyze the results to make sure that we give you the most up-to-date information on North Star Oasis. Now, when we take a look at the presidential campaign in 2016, have we looked at other times in history when we've had things as divisive as they are now between the two major parties? And the answer is actually yes. We've actually had a few four-way races before. We go back to, I think it was 1824, that election, which we covered a month ago, was, I believe, a four-way race when we had, might have even been a five-way race, when we had the Democratic-Republican ticket, and it was we literally had four Democratic-Republican candidates, one-party rule, right at the era of good feelings, and Andrew Jackson came up with the most votes in the popular election, the most electoral votes, but